I wasn't supposed to survive. Not politically, not physically, and definitely not with my memories intact. But here I am, coat torn, badge revoked, psyche shattered, writing this from a Motel 6 in Delaware with the television turned to static and the curtains nailed shut. My name was Eli Ramsey. I was senior advisor to the President of the United States, and I am telling you, as a man who once helped draft executive orders and whisper into nuclear ears, the man we elected isn't a man anymore. They'll call me paranoid, delusional, a lunatic soaked in scandal. But I know what I saw beneath the State of the Union, behind the press briefings, beneath the skin of democracy. I saw the beast. It started slow, like rot in old timber. The president, Thomas G. Harrow, was charming, stern, a war veteran with a grin carved from marble. Approval ratings in the 60s. A family man. The new Iron Age of America, they called it. Then the night chills began. He started requesting fewer public appearances after dusk, refused to shake hands, would vanish into the West Wing for hours, emerging disheveled, sweat-slicked, and barefoot. One day I walked into the Oval to deliver a briefing on international sanctions. He was standing at the window, staring into the south lawn with pupils blown wide, breathing hard. His tie hung loosely, claws, yes, claws, just visible beneath torn leather gloves, and on the resolute desk, carved deep into the presidential seal, were gouges, curved, repetitive, like a beast marking its territory. There was hair stuck between the drawers, thick, black, still warm. The smell was copper and wet dog, but worse, like grief wearing a meat suit. I closed the drawer quietly and backed out of the room. That was 2 weeks before the State of the Union. The nightmares began, soon after dogs barking at televisions, Secret Service agents whispering in code I'd never heard, a janitor found eviscerated in the White House kitchen, blamed on a wild raccoon, security footage corrupted, moonlight triggering lockdown protocols no one briefed me on. Then came the incident in the Situation Room. We were discussing missile tracking, real global threat level stuff. The president stood slowly, walked behind the admiral, leaned in and sniffed him, like an animal testing weakness. And when the admiral turned, startled, Harrow just smiled and said, "You've been hunting elk, haven't you, Richard?" He hadn't. He was vegan. He hadn't seen the woods in years. I reported it, to the chief of staff, to the Secret Service, to the vice president herself. And all I got were looks, tight-lipped smiles. One of them even whispered, "Let it lie, Eli. It's bigger than one man." So I dug deeper. I found a hidden server node labeled Lunar Lockdown. I bypassed the firewall with old campaign credentials. What I saw, there were files, dozens, some dated as far back as 1865, each titled with a number, each containing redacted autopsies, satellite footage of anomalies, and documents signed by presidents long dead: Washington, Lincoln, Kennedy, each referencing something called the Lunar Succession Protocol, a blood pact, a supernatural inheritance. The presidency is the vessel. The curse is the crown. If you found this recording, it means you're inside. Or worse, it's already watching you. Leave now, walk into the night and forget everything. But if you can't, if you have to know what sits behind the podium in the highest office of this bleeding republic, whisper your name, write it in silver ink, and pray the moon forgets you. They said it was a raccoon. That was the official report. That a raccoon had somehow bypassed multiple layers of biometric security, chewed through a reinforced steel vent, and eviscerated a White House chef so thoroughly the remains had to be mopped into biohazard bags. A raccoon. In the White House, right. What they didn't say was that the body was found missing the heart, and that tufts of coarse black hair were embedded in the throat. That the attack happened during a full moon, or that the incident was classified under lunar beta clearance, a level I didn't even know existed until I hacked into the wrong part of the internal archives. They buried the story so fast the press didn't have time to invent a scandal. But I didn't forget. I started watching everything, and that's when I noticed. The Secret Service had changed. There were new agents, different uniforms. No names, no ranks, just a silver lunar insignia on their left shoulder. They carried unusual weapons too, sidearms with elongated barrels and shimmering rounds, the kind you don't use unless the enemy doesn't bleed like we do. I tried asking about them. I was told bluntly, "You don't need to worry about Protocol Dusk, sir." But I kept digging because something was wrong with the president. Something was growing behind his eyes. I saw it the night I handed him the Russia brief. His hands were twitching. Skin stretched too tight like it didn't fit anymore. He smiled, too many teeth, and said, "You ever feel the itch, Eli? The one that starts in the bones?" Then he leaned in and whispered, "I don't sleep anymore. I hunt in my dreams." I ran that night, not out of the White House, out of the basement, because I had found something far worse. There's a tunnel system under the West Wing. Most know about the bunker and the press escape route. But deeper down, past the oxygen-sealed doors and the lead-lined corridor, there's a chamber. Inside there was a chair, surgical, reinforced with leather straps. Claw marks covered the floor. The walls were soundproofed, but I could still hear the echoes in my skull. And on a table nearby was a dossier marked Lunar Division Standing Orders, 44 Carnivore. It wasn't a metaphor. The president was a biological risk, a controlled anomaly, subject to containment and lunar cycle monitoring. And this wasn't new. Every few generations, according to the files, a vessel of power emerges. Someone whose genetic makeup binds with an ancestral lunar force, awakening during moments of concentrated public attention and unchecked control. Washington experienced vision trances under moonlight. Lincoln's dreams were reportedly filled with fur and fire. JFK was sedated during critical diplomatic events, and now Harrow was the latest heir to the blood chain. The Lunar Division had been set up in 1901. Its sole purpose? Protect the country. Preserve the myth. Contain the beast. I couldn't breathe. I dropped the folder, stumbled back through the tunnels, and emerged near the kitchen. That's when I noticed the trail. Dried blood. Long smears. They led to the Situation Room. Inside, Harrow was already there. Alone. Shirtless, staring into the wall like it owed him answers. And on the monitor, playing on loop, was footage of the chef's death. He watched it over and over like it was a bedtime story. Then he looked at me and said, "Don't worry, Eli." He tasted like secrets. I threw up into the nearest trash can and ran, but I wasn't fast enough. They found me before I made it to the press wing. Black-suited agents with pale eyes and no shadows. They didn't speak, just injected something into my neck. When I woke up, I was in my apartment, phone wiped, laptop gone. A White House memo on my table that read, "We know you're loyal. Don't make us question it." It wasn't a warning. It was a promise. So now I'm here, back in the same chair, same silence, watching him give a press conference on energy reform like he didn't rip a man apart 3 nights ago. But he doesn't look at the press anymore. He looks through them. And the moon is full again in 3 nights. Right on time for the State of the Union. I tried to warn the vice president. She smiled at me like I was a child describing monsters under the bed. Then she leaned close and whispered, "He's not the first. He won't be the last. If you're still watching, still reading, still thinking this is paranoia, tell me, when was the last time you saw a president bleed? Because the next time you do, it might not be red." It was the 3rd night in a row the cabinet met after sundown. That was new. Presidents don't convene military advisors at 11:47 p.m., and they sure as hell don't do it in total darkness. But there we were, half the Joint Chiefs, the Secretary of Defense, a trembling press liaison, and Harrow at the head of the long cherrywood table. The only light came from moonlight leaking through the blackout curtained windows. And Harrow? He didn't blink. "I want you to feel it," he said. No notes, no briefing. Just those 5 words, whispered like a prayer you don't dare interrupt. The Secretary of the Interior, bless her, tried to steer the conversation back to real policy, something about pipeline zoning. He didn't respond. Instead, he slowly unbuttoned the cuff of his shirt, rolled up his sleeve, and scratched his forearm with deliberate, slow pressure. The sound, it wasn't skin on skin, it was claw on bone. No one spoke, no one moved. We just listened to the scrape, the faint wetness of open skin, and the whisper beneath it, "It wants out. Afterward, nobody mentioned it. We left the room like survivors, exiting a blast radius. Silent, pale, shaken. But it wasn't just Harrow that had changed. The White House itself was shifting. I started noticing things. Paint peeling around door frames that had just been renovated. The bust of Lincoln replaced with something older, toothier. The portraits on the walls, smiling when you weren't looking. One night I passed a janitor scrubbing the carpet near the Roosevelt room. She looked up at me, eyes sunken like she hadn't slept in years, and whispered, "We're not supposed to speak when he walks at night." I asked who he was. She said nothing, just kept scrubbing. The stain wouldn't come out. It was too dark, too deep. Then came the contradictions. You know, the moments where reality seems to snap, like a flag caught in the wind of another dimension. I watched Harrow give a press conference at 3 p.m. in the Rose Garden, live. I was there, but 2 hours later, video footage surfaced of him in Moscow, shaking hands, wearing a different tie, giving a speech to Russian delegates with the same words, the same cadence, the same scratch on his hand. Live feed, 2 places, same man, same moment. Or not the same man? I asked one of the Lunar Division officers, Agent Maris, what the hell was going on. He stared at me a long time, jaw tight, then said, "You're thinking in too few dimensions." I laughed. He didn't. "Do you think the curse is just biology? Just fangs and fur?" He continued. "It's political, mytho-political. It bends attention. It rewrites memory. The more power he has, the more reality folds around him." I wanted to argue. Instead, I vomited in the East Wing bathroom and cried for 23 minutes. Because he was right. Power didn't just corrupt, it reshaped. That night, I found the old cabinet logbooks, the ones they don't digitize. Every president had moments where pages were missing, ripped out, stained, covered in symbols not written in any American language, and tucked in the back of the latest volume, dated 6 months ago, was a post-it note, scrawled in blood-red ink. It read, "Do not let him speak under the moon." I wanted to leave. I tried to leave, but my security credentials had been quietly revoked. My phone no longer worked outside a 5-mile radius of the Capitol. And when I looked out my apartment window that night, there was a man standing across the street. He wasn't moving, just watching and smiling. The next day, I got the official schedule for the State of the Union address. Prime time. Full moon forecasted. A live feed watched by hundreds of millions. The most powerful man in the world on center stage, and something inside him howling for release. I went to the vice president's office again. She was calm, too calm. "Don't worry," she said. "The American people love a transformation story." Then she showed me her wrist, and beneath the sleeve of her suit, fur. "You don't understand." None of us did. This wasn't just one man anymore. It was a contagion of authority. A curse passed not by blood, but by belief. The more people looked, the stronger it grew. The more cameras watched, the more real it became. It wasn't just Harrow, it was the presidency. And now I sit here staring at the invitation on my desk. Reserved, Eli Ramsey, first row, State of the Union. I'm not going. I can't, because I know what's going to happen. And I know what it means if he speaks beneath the moonlight, but if I disappear before then, if you find this recording, this file, this madness, ask yourself, when was the last time you felt truly safe watching a leader speak? Because maybe it wasn't just charisma. Maybe it wasn't just politics. Maybe it was something ancient, something with claws. They always told us America was founded on Enlightenment ideals, reason, law, freedom. They never mentioned the Lunar Compact of 1776. I didn't find it in the National Archives. It was hidden in a sealed subfolder inside the Library of Congress. Crypt vault, accessible only by biometric key and an encrypted quote from Common Sense. What I saw there, it wasn't a founding document. It was a binding ritual, written in ink and coagulated blood, signed by the founders themselves. Franklin, Jefferson, Washington, Adams. And one name burned into the parchment, the first beast. They didn't tame it. They sacrificed to it, bound it into the bloodline of leadership, into the architecture of power. And the curse? It survives by being seen. Every inauguration, every televised address. We watch it. We strengthen it. The seal of the president is a sigil, and we are the summoning circle. Operation Silver Eclipse was their last failsafe, a contingency plan buried beneath 200 years of red tape and sacrificial denial. Its goal, neutralize an active presidential. We're formed before it achieves mass transformation, only deployable under 3 conditions: full lunar alignment, confirmed behavioral breach, public risk threshold breached, i.e., live broadcast plus exposed mutation. All 3 boxes? Checked. They briefed me in the garage under the Pentagon. 3 agents, pale eyes, silver sidearms. One handed me a sealed file labeled 44 Carnivore Eclipse Protocol Alpha. Inside, a topographic map of the Capitol building with kill zones, marked in silver ash a list of potential mutation stages, and the final page, handwritten, "If he speaks beneath the full moon, it's already too late." I asked why they hadn't executed it earlier. Why let him keep ruling? Speaking? Breeding belief? Agent Maris answered with a single word: ratings. Because the people still believed in him. Because the machine of government still functioned. Under his claws. Because power doesn't fear monsters, it monetizes them. They couldn't risk destabilizing the nation during an election year. So they waited, and waited, until now. I asked what their plan was. How exactly do you kill a president who isn't fully human anymore? Maris said nothing, just opened a case. Inside were 3 rounds. Each one glowed faintly with a lunar shimmer, pure silver, soaked in consecrated blood. These were forged for Kennedy, he said. We never got the shot. He handed me one. It was cold, but it pulsed in my hand. You get within 20 feet, he said. You take the shot, end the curse, end the myth. I asked, and if I miss? Maris smiled, the kind of smile that comes before mass graves. Then we all howl. I didn't sleep. That night I walked the city. I passed through crowds cheering for the upcoming State of the Union. Posters with Harrow's face were everywhere. Campaign slogans like "Lead the Pack" and "Strongest Among Us" felt less like metaphors now. Every time someone cheered, every time a child waved a flag with his face on it, I felt the curse grow. This wasn't just a mutation. It was a miracle to them. They loved him more because he was something else. They just didn't know it had teeth. Returned to the White House for one last mission. I had to plant the Silver Eclipse beacon, an energy spike device that would fry the neural pathways of anything operating on non-human brain frequencies during full lunar exposure. A failsafe, in case the shot missed. The Oval Office was dark, moonlight spilled in. The president's desk faced the window. He didn't turn as I entered, didn't speak, just stood there breathing, watching the moon rise. Then he said, "Do you know what it feels like to be adored and feared at the same time?" I didn't answer. Turned. His face was mostly human, except the eyes. Amber. Animal. Endless. "I could tear this nation apart," he said, "but they'd still vote for me." Then he walked past me, slow and deliberate, and whispered, "See you on the floor, Eli." Set the beacon. Taped it beneath the podium. I walked out of the West Wing with a silver bullet in my pocket and the weight of a collapsing nation on my spine. Because here's the truth. This was never about him. It's about us. We built the throne. We tuned in. We fed the beast with our eyes, our cheers, our hunger for something more animal to lead us. The State of the Union is tomorrow. And if he speaks beneath the full moon, it won't be a speech. It'll be a howl. If you're still watching this, feed still reading these words, you're part of this now. Share it before it spreads, before it's you behind the podium next. I've seen riots, coups, regime changes in smoke-choked streets, but nothing prepared me for the State of the Union that tore the Republic in half. It started like any other ceremony. Red carpet, flashbulbs, the press corps humming with caffeine and anticipation. Cabinet seated, Joint Chiefs aligned like dominoes. Every member of Congress present, and the president smiling. Charcoal suit, red tie, polished shoes. You'd never know that beneath the cuffs were claws, that beneath the skin was something ancient sharpening its teeth on the bones of democracy. I sat front row, hand sweating over the beacon remote in my pocket. The silver bullet was tucked inside a metal case beneath my jacket. The plan was simple. Wait, confirm mutation. Neutralize. Simple, like performing an exorcism during a Super Bowl halftime show. The Speaker of the House announced him. The applause thundered, and then he stepped up to the podium. I watched the world end in slow motion. The moonlight pierced the Capitol dome. It was perfect, too perfect, as if the building itself had aligned with celestial precision. A sigil etched across marble and old blood, and Harrow? He stepped into it like a baptism. The cameras flickered. The audio feed caught a deep guttural hum beneath the broadcast signal, too low for most to notice. But I heard it. The growl he opened with, "My fellow Americans, tonight I speak to you, not just as your president, but as your evolution." And then he smiled. Too wide, too many teeth. His voice deepened, distorting. His posture shifted, bones cracked, audible through the microphone. Cameras zoomed in, the nation watched, and as millions stared, he changed. First, the hands. Fingers extended, skin tore, claws pushed through nail beds slick with black blood. Then the jaw, unhinging like a serpent's, reshaping into something not made for speeches. His suit burst at the shoulders as fur erupted like wildfire across his chest and spine. Still, he spoke, words warped, distorted, but intelligible, commanding. Do not fear this change, embrace it. We have been prey for too long. Let us hunt again. The room broke. Screams, stampedes, senators vaulting over chairs, Secret Service drawing weapons too slow to matter. And the president, the beast, leapt from the podium. I watched him tear through the aisle like a cannonball of sinew and rage. The Secretary of Commerce vanished beneath his claws. The Speaker lost half his face, and the cameras kept rolling. I hit the beacon trigger. A pulse spread through the chamber, silver light, flickering arcs of energy crawling up the columns like ghost lightning. The beast staggered, snarled, then roared with pain. The transformation paused. Bones buckled. Skin fluttered like static over two realities. I had my shot. I stood, raised the gun, aimed at the thing that once wore a suit. And then I hesitated, because in that moment, for just a flash, I saw his eyes. Not beastly, not amber, human. Tearful, terrified, like something was trapped inside. Something that never wanted this. That's when he lunged. I fired. The silver bullet hit him in the chest. He fell hard, twitching, breathing shallow, and then silence. The room held its breath. Somewhere a phone rang, and Harrow looked at me, blood bubbling on his lips, and whispered, "It's not over." He died there, on the house floor, beneath the moonlight, wrapped in flags and flesh, or so I thought. Because as the emergency crews arrived, the feed cut, the footage disappeared, and I was escorted away. No arrest, no trial, just removed. They told the world it was a medical episode, a heart failure. The transformation, a deepfake hoax planted by foreign enemies, and people believed it. Of course they did, because belief is what keeps the curse alive. Now Harrow is buried in Arlington, or so they claim. But I've heard whispers, footage in Argentina of a beast stalking politicians, a bloodied seal mailed to an embassy, and moonlight that bends around certain buildings like it knows. And the vice president, she was sworn in 3 days later. Her first address scheduled for the next full moon. If you watched it happen, if you felt that pull, that thrill, that hunger, it's already in you. The moon hasn't left the sky in days. I know that sounds impossible, but I haven't seen the sun since the night Harrow fell. I don't even know what day it is anymore. I'm writing this from an abandoned field office near Quantico. They tried to scrub me, tried to make me forget. But I remember, because something changed that night, not just in the Capitol, not just in the broadcast, in the world. 3 days after the State of the Union massacre, the official footage was replaced, all references to the transformation erased. No blood, no screaming, just a clean version pre-recorded. Harrow speaks for 20 minutes. Perfect lighting, no glitches, no claws, except if you slow it down to 112 speed at minute 14, his pupils split. His tie flickers like fur, and the American flag behind him blinks. Millions watch that edit. And the more they believed it was real, the more real it became. I found the Oval Office a week later, abandoned, quiet but not empty. The air was thick, not humid, but alive, like the room was breathing. The resolute desk had been shredded, the ceiling tiles scorched with what looked like claw marks burned through time, and carved into the floor, right where the president had once stood, was the seal of the beast. It looked like the Great Seal of the United States. But the eagle had fangs, the olive branch had thorns, and above the arrows, etched in ancient glyphs, "We the beasts, in order to perfect the hunt." That's when I saw it. The cocoon. It pulsed, in the corner like a tumor wrapped in silk, flesh and fur tangled with red, white, and blue. I approached, revolver drawn. It opened, and inside, it wasn't Harrow. It was a woman, wearing the vice president's smile. She stepped forward barefoot, eyes glowing like copper wildfire, voice calm. He was just the beginning. You can't kill the office, you can't kill the myth, you can only pass it on. I ran until my lungs split, until my teeth rattled from truth. Because now I understood. The curse isn't personal, it's institutional. The president is never the same man, never the same woman. Not really. They inherit the chair, and the chair is the mouth of the beast. They've activated Project Continuity, a new president sworn in, new cabinet members briefed. The Lunar Division now reports directly to her, and the people? They're watching again, cheering, clapping, obeying, because the new president speaks with calm clarity. And if you pause the footage just right, you'll see it. Fangs behind the smile, claws behind the handshakes. Last night I received a package, no return address. Inside, my old White House ID, bloodstained, a folded page from the Lunar Compact, and a note that said, "The next broadcast is yours." I checked the TV. The president is about to speak, live full moon rising again. And on the screen, he's standing behind her, smiling, clapping, watching. But I'm not there, I swear to God I'm not. They've replicated me, cloned me, reanimated me. I don't know. All I know is this. If you're watching this, you've already given it power. If you clicked like, if you whispered, "What the hell is going on?" If your skin prickled during that last speech, it's too late. Because the truth isn't that the president was a werewolf. The truth is, we made him one. Every vote, every view, every worshipful whisper of "he's the most powerful man in the world." We summoned the beast, and we fed it with democracy. It's quiet now. Too quiet for a world that just watched its leader burst from skin and bone, rip apart the Constitution, and smile for the cameras. But that's the trick, isn't it? Horror doesn't always scream. Sometimes it settles. The White House lawn has been reseeded. The Oval Office has been repainted. The press room hums with questions about the economy, foreign trade, policy reform, as if nothing ever happened, as if the beast didn't bleed on the carpet beneath the seal. But if you watch closely, if you pay attention, you'll see it. The moon never left the sky. I see things now behind podiums, in mirrored sunglasses, in the way the American flag ripples even when there's no wind. Watching. I'm not sure if they're Secret Service anymore. I'm not even sure they breathe. But they all smile the same way. Too wide. Like there's something sharp inside. I haven't slept in weeks, not really. When I close my eyes, I see Harrow, half beast, half man, standing behind a row of flags, whispering, "You made me, you watched, and now you're part of the pack." The curse doesn't need a claw to bite you. It only needs your attention. It spreads through signal, through symbols, through belief. If you believe in it, it believes in you. And now the president's voice plays in every school, every airport, every commercial break. We are strong. We are united. We are hunters. People nod along. They don't even flinch anymore when the pupils flicker, or when the shadow behind the flagpole twitches like it's breathing. I'm leaving this recording in every corner of the web I can find. I've uploaded it to dead forums, buried it in fake YouTube playlists, embedded it in malware-ridden PDFs. It doesn't matter anymore, because someone somewhere needs to know it's not over. The full moon isn't what awakens the beast. The camera is. The new State of the Union airs next month. The Vice President, now President Catherine Vale, will speak. I've seen her rehearsal tapes. She doesn't blink. And when she smiles, the lights flicker. If you're still watching this feed, still here, still breathing, know this. It's seen you. It remembers your eyes, and it's coming through the screen. So before the next full moon, before the next broadcast, mark your screen, carve a name into the frame, unsubscribe, unwatch, unbelieve, because if you don't, the next one is yours. And for those who hunger for more, step deeper into the shadows with our ultimate werewolf horror playlist, linked in the description below. In the world of horror, the scariest things happen when you least expect them. And trust me, you don't want to be left in the dark. Welcome to the darkness.